I'll be making a statement. And they'll be making a statement, and then we will be happy to take some questions. I represent Kathy Gottlieb Weiss and Jim Gottlieb, who are here with me today. They are the surviving children of Phyllis Golden-Gottlieb. Sadly, Phyllis passed away on July 23rd, 2022. I had represented Phyllis and had known her for many decades. Recently, on behalf of Kathy and Jim, I requested a meeting with Los Angeles Police Department Chief Michael Moore as a result of the shocking and disturbing revelations of misconduct by L.A.P.D. Captain Corey Palka, as detailed in the New York Attorney General's report of this investigation. The New York Attorney General's report revealed that a captain of the Los Angeles Police Department informed CBS executives of the confidential sexual assault complaint filed with the L.A.P.D. by Ms. Phyllis Golden-Gottlieb against Mr. Les Moonves, a very high-level CBS executive. In addition, the New York Attorney General's office concluded in its report that the L.A.P.D. captain shared confidential information and assisted CBS executives for months to prevent Ms. Golden-Gottlieb's complaint against Les Moonves from becoming public. New York Attorney General Letitia James, in her November 2nd, 2022 press release, stated, "The OAG investigation revealed new information about an LAPD captain's direct and repeated interference with an open investigation into allegations of sexual assault against Mr. Moonves. The same day that an individual filed a confidential criminal sexual assault complaint against Mr. Moonves at an LAPD station in Hollywood, an LAPD captain informed a CBS executive of the confidential complaint. The LAPD captain shared an unredacted police report with the executive, who shared it with Mr. Moonves and other executives at CBS. Each of the executives then went to work to deal with the impending crisis. Mr. Moonves and the CBS executive asked the LAPD captain about the complainant's motivations and her next course of action. In text messages obtained by the Office of the Attorney General in New York, Mr. Moonves said, quote, "Hopefully we can kill media from PD, then figure what complainant wants." Possibly the most disturbing finding in Attorney General James' investigative report was the following. Quote, "Over the course of several months, the LAPD captain continued to secretly provide Mr. Moonves and CBS executives with status updates on the LAPD's investigation. The LAPD captain made it clear that he was willing to intervene on Mr. Moonves' behalf, and Mr. Moonves solicited his assistance. He assured Mr. Moonves, or he assured CBS executives that he had spoken to his contacts within the LAPD and implemented controls to prevent news of the police report from leaking to the press from the LAPD. When the allegations finally became public and Mr. Moonves resigned from CBS, the LAPD captain sent a text to the executive saying, quote, "We worked so hard to try to avoid this day. I am so completely sad," end quote. And that's all a quote from the New York AG's report. They're finding that a senior LAPD officer was providing a high-profile individual who was accused of sex crimes confidential information provided by an alleged victim of sexual abuse, in my opinion, has caused mistrust of the LAPD by many victims of sexual assault. Many now have questions about whether they can trust the LAPD to conduct a fair investigation and protect victims if the victims come forward to make a police report against a rich, powerful, and/or famous individual. Even prior to the New York Attorney General's report, which revealed completely inappropriate conduct by the L.A.P.D. captain in mishandling Ms. Golden-Gottlieb's report, victims of alleged sexual abuse were frequently afraid to come forward to file a police report. Now their fear is compounded in light of the evidence which has revealed that a high-ranking L.A.P.D. officer was colluding with and assisting a powerful, high-profile individual in order to protect the reputation of the accused at the expense of the alleged victim of sexual abuse. The rich, powerful, and famous should not receive more favorable treatment than the victim is afforded by the L.A.P.D. Investigations must be conducted equally for all. Unfortunately, as a result of the revelations in the New York AG's report, the confidence in the L.A.P.D. of many sexual assault victims has now been shattered. Their trust in law enforcement must be earned and not betrayed. Meaningful steps must be taken by the L.A.P.D. to restore that trust. On behalf of my clients, the children of Ms. Golden-Gottlieb, I requested that Chief Moore meet with Kathy, Jim, and me as soon as possible. At this meeting, I requested that on behalf of the L.A.P.D., he make a personal apology to Ms. Weiss and Mr. Gottlieb because of the L.A.P.D.'s misconduct towards their mother. In addition, I respectfully requested that he share with us the steps that the L.A.P.D. is taking to make changes to ensure that other alleged victims of sexual assault receive a prompt, a professional, and a confidential investigation of their complaints by law enforcement, which is free of bias and conflict that favors the accused. Tipping the scales of justice in favor of the powerful over the powerless has created a stain on the L.A.P.D., and it has a chilling effect on victims' willingness to seek justice. I am pleased to disclose that Kathy, Jim, and I did meet with Chief Moore and some members of his staff yesterday for approximately an hour. I appreciated that Chief Moore was very sensitive to Kathy and Jim at the meeting and appeared very committed to conducting a full and fair investigation. He did apologize to Kathy and Jim for the conduct of an L.A.P.D. officer who had mishandled Phyllis's sexual assault complaint, and I felt that he was sincere in his apology. We appreciated his willingness to meet with us, and we look forward to assisting the L.A.P.D. in their investigation and review of policies and ways to restore the confidence of victims of sexual assault in the L.A.P.D. And now I am pleased to present Jim, Phyllis's son, and I'll trade places with you. Remove your mask or Jim. It's up to you.
Sounds clearer without a mask. This is a statement on behalf of my sister and myself. In 2017, our mother, Phyllis Golden-Gottlieb, made a confidential police report to the Los Angeles Police Department in which she alleged that she was sexually assaulted by her former boss, Les Moonves, who later became the president of CBS. After decades of shame, our mother finally had the courage to make a report to the L.A.P.D.'s Hollywood division. She reported what she believed to be a crime against her that she had only told family and close friends about for the longest time. There are now accusations that the captain of that division, in 2017, had a relationship with the accused that compromised the captain's handling of our mother's report. Yesterday, we met with the chief of the Los Angeles Police Department, Michael Moore, along with a representative of Internal Affairs and others in the L.A.P.D. to discuss the matter and learn about their commitment to investigate and hold accountable those who may have violated any laws and/or policies of the L.A.P.D. After our meeting with Chief Moore and his team, we feel optimistic. We understand that the L.A.P.D is conducting an investigation, and we feel that they are taking this matter very seriously. The public in general, and especially people who file sexual assault complaints, need to have confidence that police will treat them as the victims they are, without any hint of shaming or worrying that their confidential report will be compromised in any way. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll change places with Kathy. Thank you. This one.
This is just a little bit of information on my mom. It was always just the three of us, at least until my mom threw our dad out. I had heard the allegations from my mom regarding her boss, Les Moonves, and his inappropriate conduct towards her. I was so proud when my mom told me that she was going to report his conduct to the police. She gained confidence from the reports made by other women against powerful men in Hollywood. When I read about how Captain Polka had allegedly conspired with Les Moonves, I was mortified. I felt like I was watching Goodfellas, and all I could think of was thank goodness she wasn't alive to see this. I called my brother, and we talked about how shocked we were about this. After she left Hollywood, she had become a substitute teacher, at first working in Beverly Hills, but she felt she could make much more of a difference by working with the kids in the inner city. So she started working at Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School, led by a principal she truly admired, who greeted each student each morning with a hug. When my mom noticed a student with tattered clothes or shoes too small, she would take them to Target to buy them new ones. This was a woman I was proud to call Mom. In the end, my mother's strength and resilience in the face of unimaginable trauma was truly inspiring. My mom had the courage to let her life not be defined as a victim, but rather she used her experience to make a positive impact onto the lives of inner city children as a teacher. She was my hero.
Thank you. Well, you sit here.
Okay. Thank you.
And now we'll be happy to take some questions, and then we will also show you a few photographs of Phyllis, and also of Phyllis with her children.
You mentioned that Chief Moore indicated that they're conducting an investigation. Are they doing a criminal investigation into the complaint to see if Les Moonves could be charged, or is this an investigation into perhaps mishandling by the L.A.P.D.?
I think it would be fair to ask Chief Moore if he wishes to comment on the focus and the scope of his investigation. But I do have the sense that it's intense, and also he's not the only investigating agency, but he appears to be taken seriously, I would say, this investigation into how this could have happened.
And could Les Moonves be charged with the sexual assault? I mean, are we still within the statute of limitations?
The allegation that Phyllis made about the sexual assault was rejected for prosecution, at least in part on the issue of the statute of limitations for prosecuting him if the prosecutor decided that there was merit to the allegation, had expired. It was not within the criminal statute of limitations that existed at the time. However, I often suggest to persons who allege that they are victims of sexual assault that they file a police report, even if they know it's too late as a matter of law, or if they're not sure, it's too late as a matter of law for such a report or allegation of a sexual assault to be prosecuted, because that's very helpful to prosecutors to know that there may have been a pattern. And so, for example, in California, we allow Me Too witnesses, called 1101B witnesses, some of whom, for example, would have been beyond the statute of limitations, but could testify at a trial if the victim of the same alleged perpetrator had showed a similar pattern of conduct with them. That, in fact, is what happened at the recent trial of Harvey Weinstein. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, other
California law has a very specific confidentiality statute for victims of sexual violence. Is this the first time you've encountered someone in law enforcement deliberately violating that?
You're correct. The question is, California law specifically has a provision that a police report has to be confidential. Am I correctly stating your question?
For sexual assault victims specifically, there's a specific part that says they get extra protection.
Sexual assault victims get extra protection. And there is a provision in the California Constitution as well about confidentiality of reports, which would cover this instance. The question is, am I aware of other situations that are similar? In my many decades of law practice in Los Angeles, I cannot think of a similar situation. Many victims come to me and they're afraid that something like this would happen, and they were afraid before this scandal emerged, and many of them are still concerned and are not sure if they should report to the L.A.P.D. because they do want it to be confidential. And there is a form, actually, that victims, when they make a police report, fill out, in which they can check a box, and do they wish this to be confidential? And Phyllis checked that box. I have not heard of a similar situation, but I know there's a lot of fear. But because I haven't heard of it doesn't mean it isn't happening, and it doesn't mean that it has happened in other situations in the past.
So as a follow-up to that, is there any recourse or is there any consequence for the person who violates that? And if so, has the statute in that issue now elapsed?
Another good question. So the question is, are there any legal consequences for a person, an LAPD officer, or officer of any other law enforcement agency who may do something similar to what is alleged in this case? Well, I think first the investigators need to conclude their investigation of what happened, turn it over to the prosecutors in any and all law enforcement agencies that may be scrutinizing this matter and feel that they may have jurisdiction to prosecute. And then based on the facts and based on the law, they'll make a prosecutorial decision. I'm not prepared to say that they should or should not prosecute anyone at this point, simply because I don't have all of the facts. I do have what has been reported by some very good investigative reporters and also from New York Attorney General's report. But I am interested in the results of the investigation and what the prosecutors will decide. There are many laws that could be implicated. Could be, for example, I'm not saying it applies here, but based on news reports, if someone tries to impede or interfere with, any police agency's investigation improperly, that could be an obstruction of justice. We don't know if a conspiracy law would apply. Again, it depends on the facts, and maybe there are other laws. And also, they would have to fit within an appropriate statute of limitations for any criminal prosecution. So there are many factors to consider, so I'm not ready to come to a conclusion about that. But I would agree that there should be consequences. Now, whether they are internal consequences, in this case, the captain is retired, whether there can be, whether there's just a great deal to consider. All I can say is I'm glad it's public at this point. And I do believe it's taken seriously. As Kathy indicated, she also agrees with that, and I think Jim agrees with that too.
I have one other.
Oh, okay, one more question.
Okay, one more real quick.
Would you please identify yourself?
Sure, Eric Leonard from NBC.
Okay, Eric from NBC, go ahead.
The discovery of all of this was by dumb luck.
Pardon me, was the discovery of all this was
By dumb luck. There was not
by luck?
an investigation into whether or not the details of this particular report had been leaked. This happened because the New York Attorney General was looking into financial matters, got subpoenas, got search warrants, and was able to obtain all this inside communication from CBS.
Eric is saying this happened because the New York Attorney General
Yeah.
was reporting, or I should say, investigating, and then reported their
Correct.
conclusions,
My-
not because of anything that
Nobody here knew.
was revealed in Los Angeles about what happened.
Correct.
Yes.
So my question is, did you get any indication from the chief yesterday that their look at this, the scope of what they're looking at, is going to go beyond this discovery, which was essentially just handed to them?
So Eric's question is, did I receive any assurance or communication or understanding yesterday that the scope of the L.A.P.D's investigation is going to go beyond what the New York Attorney General's report found? And I did not hear about any limits on the chief's investigation. I do know that he's not the only law enforcement agency that is investigating. But I do feel very confident that he wants to get to the bottom of it. But it's not for me to tell him what to investigate, or frankly, for him to tell me all of the details or scope of his investigation.
So you mentioned other law enforcement agencies. Have you been contacted by them?
The question is, have I been contacted by
Your clients, other law enforcement agencies?
by other law enforcement agencies?
I mean, the
Not
FBI.
yet, not yet.
And I'm curious, did your mother was she ever get a sense she was being intimidated or harassed, like that the information had gotten out?
She had already,
Do you want to speak into the microphone? Go ahead.
when this information came out, she had already passed away.
I mean, before she passed, did she get a sense that perhaps her complaint had gotten out?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, she really kept it secret for so many decades out of fear, right? Even though she was a real staunch feminist, marched with ERA, she still was fearful about reporting, which is sort of ironic. And yet, down the line, decades later, when she came forward, she was almost silenced once again.
And what was your reaction when all of this came out?
I was mortified, and like I said before, all I could say is thank God she's not alive, because she would have really been jumping on these tabletops, fighting everything.
And I know in the communications that was reported by in New York, it said that Palka had used contacts within the L.A.P.D, and this was back in 2017. Is there concern that there's people still in the L.A.P.D that may have had knowledge of this? Or
Your
aided in it?
question is, what did the captain?
Well, Corey Palka said he was going to reach out to contacts. and I'm assuming they were.
That he
within the
reached
law-
out to,
In the LAPD. When
your question is, you're saying that the captain, Captain Palka, had contacts within the LAPD. He, of course,
He
wasn't.
said, yeah, he said in some of those communications, if I'm remembering correctly, that he was gonna reach out to contacts in the LAPD. So that would suggest he talked to people within the department. So I'm just wondering what concerns that raises.
What do I think of that? So the question is, I'm sorry, your name is?
Christy Fajardo with Channel 11.
Christy with Channel 11 is asking and stating that the then captain and retired commander Palka had indicated that he had contacts with the LAPD within it. And then your question is, did he use those contacts? Is that your question?
Well, I mean, it was sort of inferred, so I'm just wondering what, and that wasn't that long ago, so some of the people might still be in the department, so I'm just,
And is that your question?
yeah, it was what concerns.
Would
that-
anyone that he did reach out to within the department, if he did, are they still employees of the department? Is that the question?
Right, and if that raises.
Good, I want to make sure I'm stating it correctly. My sense of it is that this investigation is not limited to one person, that the LAPD will want to investigate and learn from and get knowledge from and information from anyone to whom Captain Palka reached out and disclosed or requested that they keep this allegation against Mr. Moonves confidential, or not have the LAPD proceed. So what I'm saying is, I do have a sense that they're interested in anyone who may still be employed or even formerly was employed at the time that may have been part of this inappropriate conduct by Captain Palka, and might have either assisted or enabled him or had information, failed to provide it. We don't know if there was anyone else, but when I say that I have confidence that the chief will do a full investigation, my sense is they know how to investigate, and they want to know everything that might be relevant or that someone might think is not relevant but could be relevant to this investigation. I don't think it would be limited to one person. I'm happy to answer any other questions if there are any, and if not, okay. So let's stand up with these. And these,
That's when she was at Longmore. That's when she was at Longmore.
let's stand up here. Okay, so why don't you describe this photo, and then Jim, you can describe this photo when it was taken. I'll hold it. Go
Sure.
ahead, you describe it.
This is her actually in her office when she worked at Longmore for Les Moonves.
So what she alleged took place when they both were working at Lorimar, not at CBS.
Correct.
So did you want to say anything else about it? It's a beautiful photo.
She was amazing. She was a powerful woman. And even from that point on, even to now, it's still hard to be a powerful woman in Hollywood. And she fought as hard as she could on so many different issues, except when it came really personal. But eventually she did.
Thank you. Okay, and Jim, I'm going to move over here to the microphone to tell us about this photo, please.
In 1994, I moved from Los Angeles to San Diego. because my business partners were both located there. And we would often get together in San Diego, at least once a year, the three of us. And this is just us hanging out in the La Jolla Cove, spending time together as we often like to do.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Hey, Jim. Yep, one more time. Thank you.
All right, so I'll just say one last thing, which is this is all about justice for Phyllis. And it's all about justice for other victims who allege they've been sexually assaulted, raped, sexually abused. And we want change. We're doing this in Phyllis's name. And I'm honored to work with Kathy and Jim, who are there to honor their mother and help to win the change that they know that she would have wanted. Thank you.
Thanks, Gloria.
Thank you.